Hello friends, welcome to another session with Race IAS. Today we are going to talk about how to understand or read the newspaper. Well, when it comes to newspaper and UPSC studies, it is often believed that it is one of the most important exercise that you are going to do for your preparation. And it is a very correct point also, because most of the questions that you will encounter in your mains section require an analytical bend of mind. And this analytical bend of mind you tend to develop through reading of newspapers. In today's time, I'm talking about, if I talk about my times, then we were encouraged to read the newspaper right from class 6th, 7th, 8th onwards. We were looked down upon by our parents and peers if we said that, okay, I don't read a newspaper, and everyone used to be, smirking at you. But in today's time, with all of you ladies and gentlemen watching me, it is a completely different ball game, and it is only when you reach the point of preparing for UPSC that you start thinking that, okay, there is a newspaper that we need to read about. And the moment the question of a newspaper crops up, specifically talking about the UPSC exams, there is only one paper which strikes you, the Hindu. Yeah. And Hindu, of course, has a legacy built over a period of time with the kind of essays and articles that they have been able to assemble over a period of time, which makes it a very comprehensive read. And along with the newspaper, if we add Frontline, the entire Hindu publication house that gets completed into the gamut of UPSC. So, whenever we will talk about UPSC newspaper reading, we shall talk about primarily two newspapers, the Hindu and the Indian Express. Both these papers have a very objective feel about them. So the first question that I'm going to tackle for you guys is, which newspaper to read? Okay, which newspaper should you be reading? So the first option, of course, for millions of you watching there is, of course, the Hindu, and the second option is, again, the Indian Express. Hindu is generally preferred by people residing in south of India. The primary reason being, it covers the politics of the states over there very nicely, and along with a national perspective to it from the point of view of the South Indian populace. Whereas Indian Express covers the national news, the same thing with the perspective of the North Indian. So, whichever side of the Vindhyas you tend to stay, either of these two newspapers is good enough. Both of them would be excellent. That would complete your outlook. My suggestion would be that you need to get into both of them. Both these newspapers are important for you to develop your perspective. The Hindu as well as the Indian Express. Okay, so if the question is which newspaper, I would suggest both Hindu and the Indian Express needs to be read by you. That is one thing. Secondly, if we talk about the question that how much time should be given to the newspaper reading, considering that I have just said it is one of the most important parts of your preparation. So, how much time needs to be devoted? Now, ideally, in a very ideal scenario, this is all that you have. Okay, 45 to 60 minutes is the time that ideally should be spent on newspaper reading. But generally, when we start, we tend to take almost 4 to 5 times that amount of time. Okay, so this is where we start off with, and this is where we have to reach. That our time should not exceed more than 45 to 60 minutes. Okay, this is our aim. But in general, we tend to start with 3 to 4 hours of it. There are two reasons maybe 3 if I may try to see. 2 to 3 reasons why this happens. Number 1 is reading speed. Okay, we've got a very slow reading speed once we start because we are not used to so much of reading, that's why. Okay, this comes out of practice. Okay, this comes out of practice, the reading speed. Secondly, understanding. Understanding gets developed when you keep reading the newspaper over a period of time. Then you will be able to relate with the topics, and your reading speed and understanding will automatically help you have a better grasp or grip of whatever is being talked about, and you'll be able to do it faster. And the third thing is what to read. Okay, third thing is what to read, or I would say reading overload. That also affects our reading speed. So if we take care of these 3 points, then obviously this 3 to 4 hours of time gets reduced to 45 to 60 minutes. Do remember, this is the time that I am talking about reading one newspaper. Okay, so you would imagine that if you have to read 2 newspapers, automatically you will double the time, but it is not so. In case if you are reading 2 newspapers, either one of them before, doesn't matter, then your total time will be around 60 to 90 minutes, maximum 90 minutes. It should not go beyond that. So you need to develop those kind of skill sets which help you get this time reduced. Okay, over here if we see, we are continuously, we've talked about 2 things. One is your reading speed and one is your understanding. These 2 things will be developed organically over a period of time. Okay, these 2 things will get developed organically over a period of time, whereas what you need to read can be done from right here onwards. Like right from this moment onwards, you can take a call on what needs to be read so that I can get the maximum information within a stipulated time. Okay, so this is the issue that we are going to talk about next, that what should be read. What should be read? Okay. Before I get into what should be read, I am getting into what not to read. Okay, I'll first talk about what not to read. The first thing that generally is of least importance, and again, please do remember, I am talking everything in terms of with reference to the paper that you have to prepare for, with reference to the exam that you have to prepare for. So what not to read, what you don't have to read is everyday politics. In your exams, generally, it is not really so much asked. In fact, even in your interview, the politics will not be discussed. Okay, the panel will make sure that it is not aligned to any specific ideology. Even if it is, at their personal opinions, they won't make that interview sound like one of a political propaganda. So, politics can be very easily left behind. You might have an inclination to it, you might want to read about it, that's a completely different scenario. But as far as your exams are concerned, whereas your preparation is concerned, you really don't have to get into the politics. Secondly, what is not relevant according to your exam is your local news. Okay, the local news of your city, of your states in a smaller manner are not really what should be your focus. You can easily leave that bit, and local news is something that you can completely avoid. Now coming to what should be read. Okay, coming to what should be read. What should be read is first and foremost national news. Okay, whatever is a national issue or something which is affecting the entire country, something that the Prime Minister has said somewhere, it needs to be read about. Okay, so anything which is of national importance, say a flood occurs in Kerala. Now, although it is a state news, but the occurrence of the flood is an issue for the entire country, and therefore it needs to be read about. The geographical reasons for it need to be understood, so we may avoid, or maybe you can prepare your awareness, being a future bureaucrat, that you might have to tackle these kind of situations. Okay, so national issues need to be read about, just like international issues, some conference, some statement by some world leader, etc., need to be read about. Okay, so national issues, the international issues, they also need to be read on an everyday basis. I'm writing issue over here. Let's remove this issue bit and let me write news. Okay, national and international news. Now it's making more clarity. The orders, or if some judgment of the Supreme Court comes, then you have to read about it. Okay, because these orders or these judgments become the ground base on which your future policy gets formed. So it is very important for you to understand that this thing should be read. National news, international news, order of Supreme Court, and any new government scheme which gets launched. Okay, any new government scheme that gets launched needs to be read about. Any analysis of an existing scheme needs to be read about. Okay, any kind of an analysis, if somebody is talking about, okay, fine, this is how the Fulana scheme should pan out, so we should read about it. Yes, definitely, you should have a knowledge about it. Then comes, very important, economy and business. Okay, economy and business, very important for you, because these days the entire world is running on economy only, and in fact it is the new military, if you may say, that whosoever has good economic strength will always score over his or her rivals. So in today's time, it is so very important for you to understand the economy and the business. So the news becomes very, very relevant. Similarly, just like economy and business, another thing which has got the limelight these days is the environment. Okay, anything pertaining to environment needs to be read about, because as we have seen, climate change is affecting the way in which we function or we work. So national, international, Supreme Court, scheme analysis, economy and business, and environment, they need to be read regularly. Now over here, I'm just shifting to this side. Other than these points, of course, now the new section gets added. Earlier I used to write it over here, what not to read, but I've been maintaining it for a very, very long time, that very soon UPSC will start asking you questions about sports. And fortunately for me, this year they had some very good questions on from the sports section in your examination, the pre-exams. So I would suggest that all of you, and especially, I'm so sorry to sound like this, but most of the female viewers who are seeing this are not so very savvy with sports. Okay, India is doing very well with their women teams in various sections, and I would request all of you to start taking very serious and keen interest in sports. Sports are very important for us because they help you to understand or build up your youth society in a very positive way. Sports gives us so much of energy and positive thoughts, and it tends to gather us as a team which can take this thing completely forward as a nation. So sports becomes very important for you. Once you start reading about it, you will understand how the psychology develops and how various sports are played and games and whatever. I'm not just talking from a factual point of view, but the importance of sports in building your own nation is very, very important. So that is one thing, and it is very good that finally UPSC has woken up to the importance of it and has given it some space in your examination paper also. Okay, so sports becomes this part, and lastly, and the most important bit that you've been thinking about for some time is the editorial. Okay, in the editorial, we have the opinion, lead, etc. It is like this. We shall take a look at it also. We have the editorial, opinion, or lead, as we call them. These are the sections in the editorial page which have to be read necessarily. Okay, this is the brain of your newspaper. Okay, this is where your analysis is going to come from. Over here, everything is news. But it is only in the editorial section that we tend to understand or hear about somebody else's opinion. And based on that opinion, you tend to form your own opinion. So it becomes very important that editorial section needs to be read in all earnest. Okay, with either of the newspapers. It can be, for that matter, let's say if somebody is in Kerala and they would like to go with Manorama, fair enough. Okay, any two newspapers, you have to pick any two newspapers. Two newspapers is what I would suggest. Most of you don't even read one of them, but that's okay. The oldies, if I may call myself, we still belong to the old school, and we still talk about newspaper as a reading habit, and two newspapers is what I would ask you to do in a given time frame. Of course, 1 to 1.5 hours is all that you need, and this is where you'll reach. So summing it up for you guys, I would say this is the brain. Okay, very important. The brain which gives you the analysis. From here on, you get your viewpoint which you are going to write in your essays or in your GS mains answer writing. Okay, so this is where you are going to get your brain. Okay, now for this brain to feed on, you need all these sections. Okay, the raw material for this analysis is going to come from here. Why do we have to read this bit also, and why can't we just move on with this thing, is because we want you to develop your own thinking process also. Okay, so while you are reading the opinion of somebody else, at the same time your mind is working such that, okay, I am able to understand what the other person is trying to say. Okay, so effectively this is how you should go about your newspaper. These are the sections that you are going to read in your newspaper. Okay, lastly, what I would one thing more I would like to point out, there is a notion called notes. Okay, notes from the newspaper. Well, according to me, it's a strict no. You should not, ideally, you should not, nobody can stop you, but you should not make notes from your newspaper. Why? Because as I said, as you know, news flows. Okay, every day the news is continuously flowing. When I am reading it, very slowly over a period of time, the news deposition, as I call it, takes place. I am using the analogy of a river over here. Over a period of time, this news deposition takes place in my brain, which leads me to analysis of the topic. Once the analysis happens, it leads me to my opinion. This is, do remember, my opinion. And this my opinion is needed for your exams. It is this part which is the most important, fundamental part that forget about UPSC, any employer for that matter, he would like to listen to your opinion. Okay, what is your take? What is your opinion on a given topic? So it is very important for you to what happens if we get into this notes business. Okay, let us say, fine, you got the gist of it, but what is the problem if I go ahead and start making notes? Well, you will end up with lots of kachra, as we call it. Okay, lots of kachra. Why? Because every day you would be writing loads and loads of things. So what is supposed to finish off in, let us say, 1 to 1.5 hours, you will take 3 to 4 hours just writing those passages again and again and again. And once we get into the mindset of making notes, we start getting into the concept of cut copy. And these days, being it being a digital scenario, all you need to do is select a certain piece of paper and paste it somewhere else. So it becomes very easy for you to clutter your hard drive. Rather than that, if you just keep on reading with due focus, this process starts taking shape. It is very important. Believe me, guys, this news deposition is such an important concept that over a period of time, the slow deposition process, very slowly the layers keep on forming, and once those layers have formed in your head, the analysis and your opinion becomes a matter of time. Okay, so trust me on this. Every day, slowly, it is a slow and sure process, the whole concept of newspaper reading. Okay, so what we have figured out in the last few minutes that we have been talking is that what to read, rather let me start by which newspaper to read, how much time, what to read, what not to read, and lastly, please, I add please to it, please do not worry about notes from your newspaper. Okay, even if you want to make notes, let us say you want to make notes, try to make it in a very objective and factual point of view. Okay, you do not need to write analysis, the complete articles that are there. Maybe there's a certain point which you really like and which you would like to remember. Then you have to write it somewhere, maybe in your book, or attach maybe you carry a diary where you write important points. And the important thing is, the more you are able to access that bit of paper. My only problem with making notes and everything is that we spend lots of time on something which we generally tend not to look back again at. Okay, so it is very important for you to understand that these are the 4-5 points that we have talked about. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll take you through this newspaper. Over here with me is the Hindu, as you can see, and I'll try to give you a brief idea as to what all we can read in it, just to stress my point, what all can be read in this newspaper. So on the first page there is hardly anything other than of course the trip of Venkaiah Naidu and China's opposition to his Arunachal trip. Okay, this will give us an idea as to why, maybe if we read a bit on it, as to there is Arunachal that we have in our country, which is contested by China, that it doesn't belong to us, and therefore a visit by any leader over there is categorically questioned by China. So on the first page, this is what it is. This is where we all tend to give our advertisements. Okay, so you don't need to worry about anything of this sort. Forget about it. It's the YouTube world that we are talking about. So this is none of your concern. Coming to the continuation page, there is hardly anything that you're going to read over here. Next up, the Tanishq ad, might as well leave it. Delhi pollution, the ads, everything, you do not need to worry about it. See, I'm leaving all the state news like this, okay, pertaining to a specific state or a region. Of course, it is not going to be so very important in my exams, therefore I'm going to leave it. Okay, again, the firecrackers and the coachings, wonderful, that's what the day is about. Then here again we have got the states, something about Rajasthan. Maybe somewhere over here hidden is an important thing. Public push for bifurcating Meghalaya. Okay, this will give us an idea as to what is happening in the northeast. Okay, there are certain regions of our country which are very less talked about, and northeast is one of those. So in order to understand our country, it is so very important for us to understand exactly what is happening and so forth. Political push for bifurcating Meghalaya. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. I would just increase the font. Now I think it would be visible that political push for bifurcating Meghalaya. If you guys can give me a second, I would ask Rahul to come and adjust my board for me. Just a moment. So, perfectly fine. Political push, if I may add like this, for bifurcating Meghalaya. This is how we see it. So, this is one thing. Then getting to again, states are continuing. It's about Kerala, Congress, Bommai, Siddaramaiah, DMK, teen athletes, Adani Group. No, it's not really so much of a problem. Unless and until, if you want to see, I'll mention this point. You see over here, Adani Group tends to take over airport operations from today. So unless until you want to analyze what the government is trying to do over here by privatization and stuff like that, in that sense, this news becomes important. Now, see, these kind of news, you tend to develop a reading habit over a period of time. From the first day onwards, you won't feel like anything important in this news, or even if you read, you won't be able to take out the context or the importance of it. Okay, so it becomes, this is something that you'll find interesting maybe sometime later. For those of you who have been reading newspapers regularly, who've been analyzing how the governments over the years have functioned, then this is a very interesting news that comes over here. The way the Adanis are slowly taking over our various, I'm using this word very strangely, but taking over our airports throughout the country, and for the lease period, that is very interesting. In Uttar Pradesh, in Lucknow, they have a lease period of 99 years. I mean, give me a break. Okay, so what kind of capitalism here? I won't get into that, but Adani Group to take over airport operations from today. This news becomes interesting. Here it comes, the editorial page. Okay, you have, I won't even bother to go into anything. This entire page is of importance to you. Okay, everything, each and every word written on this page is important for you. Okay, every day, 365 days, and not just 365 days, any time of the year. Very, very important for you. This is the editorial page, as I said, the brain. Okay. Here coming to the op-ed. In the op-ed, you can choose your articles. So, today, if I may see, just getting in perspective, I would love to read about climate finance. Okay, so deconstructing climate finance. This is what I would like to read. I might leave the whatever the politics of Andhra Pradesh. I'm not so much keen into politics, so I would leave the state politics at some level. But I would definitely like to read my climate finance scenario over here. Then similarly, if I go down, then this point is very, very important. See, sowing better to eat better. Okay, very important point when it comes to agriculture, state of agriculture across India. So, sowing better to eat better becomes a very good article for me to read on. I'm just giving you an example of what we need to read and what we need to leave. Effectively, if I may see, up till now, other than the editorial page, we haven't had much to read about. So, definitely my time is going efficiently over there. Next page, if we see, it's the national news, not really anything which is coming my way. No, nothing. Here it comes when we talk about the Prime Minister and making a splash. So, Gati Shakti will boost infra projects. The Prime Minister says that. So, many a times he announces schemes like these or gives an insight into what the government is trying to do. So, these kind of articles become very important for us, as in how they are going to affect the overall functioning of the country. So, if you are a student of public policy, or if you are a student of international relations, or how do you want to take your country forward, that is UPSC and stuff like that, then these kind of articles become very important for you. Okay, gear up for cyber warfare. This is interesting. Gear up for cyber warfare, Swami tells Sri Lanka. Okay, now Mr. Subramaniam Swami visited President Gotabaya Rajapakse in Colombo, and that is where he is talking about that Sri Lanka should get ready about the cyber warfare. There must be something happening in the subcontinent towards which this news is referring to. Similarly, reports of coal crisis are baseless, says the finance minister. Okay, very recently there's a coal crisis going on. See, these are the points that once you start tending to follow, you start getting to relate to. For me, this is very easy. Like I was able to pick these 3 articles in this entire newspaper. But say if somebody is not really over there, doesn't need to worry. At least we can clearly see that, okay, this is something related to economics, this is something related to economics, this is something related to international relations. Similarly, duplicates from Nepal add to the India's Darjeeling tea worries. It's absolutely fine. These are something which are happening in the international context, therefore I am reading about them. Okay, I can leave the politics bit of it everywhere. Okay, I can very easily leave the politics bit of it. Okay, give jabs to children who need it most. We have been talking about COVID-19 vaccine for children, and there is something which has come over here. So, give jabs to children who need it most. Yes, I would like to read about it. Then Jammu Kashmir happens. We really don't see anything happening over there. Scenic schools, etc. So, not really so much of an interest. Okay. Taliban warns US EU of refugee influx if sanctions continue. You might want to read about it. Fair enough. Sri Lankan fishermen, maybe US open to land borders in November. Maybe bits and pieces you can read about, but There's nothing really in these articles that should that should ask for my attention. Then Turkey slams Russia US after Syria attacks. This is an interesting news. Again, why is it interesting? Because I know the context behind. Okay, so for you people, if you're the first time readers, maybe just reading this news will give you some insight as to what is happening. Here comes the business outlook. Infosys has given some results. Wipro has given some results. What would interest me is India's trade with China. Okay, this is the news that is going to be of interest to me, because this gives me an insight as to the trade gap or the trade scenario between India and China over here. So this is something that I would really be interested in. Aluminium industry rings alarm bells over coal shortage. Just on the last page we had read that the finance minister had completely said that the charges of coal shortage are useless, and on the very next page we are seeing this kind of an article, so that makes a very interesting read. Then comes the sports news. As far as sports is concerned, maybe this news is of some importance. For those of you who follow football would know everything about it, what is happening in the World Cup qualifiers. But for those who are starting, at least this will tell you there is a World Cup about to happen, number one. And where is it going to happen? So let us say punches the Qatar ticket. Then of course we get to know that, okay, it is happening in Qatar. Maybe if you guys get interested and start looking into the geography of it, that is one thing. Then the Indian men reach Thomas Cup quarterfinals. There is a badminton tournament of Thomas Cup, as we call it. So slowly over a period of time, all of you would, I hope, start getting interested into sports also. The entire cricket news, IPL juggernaut rolls on. If you are interested, might as well read it. Otherwise, you may leave it. Okay. So this is how now see, this is where what I was talking about when I was talking when it comes to the women in the sports. So is India's domination of women's relay at Asia in danger? Most of you probably didn't even know that we were a dominant force in women athletics. But yes, in the Asian Games, in the last Asian Games, these girls had performed wonderfully well, and some article has been written on it with some perspective. So just to give you an idea, this is how we tend to select our articles while reading a newspaper. I'll give you one more example and I'll do it fast. Let us see. Now I'm on to my second newspaper, which is the Indian Express. Okay, I'll choose my, I've already read about it. So China objects to Naidu's Arunachal visit. Fair enough. Then not really something there is which is appealing to me. Not really so much. Maybe if you are someone who has some opinions about the politics of the country, would like to read about it, but otherwise you may peacefully move on. From page 1, it is a continuation. City, we don't want to read about it. City again, we can leave it very easily. Then government and politics, well, you may peacefully leave it. As far as the Express network or the details are concerned, it will again be local news only. You can very peacefully leave it. The advertisements you may leave. Again, it is the same thing. You can leave. And coming to the editorial page, as always, everything is important. Okay, as always, so till now in my second newspaper I have read one article which I had previously read also, added one more to it about that change in the CBSE or change in the course books that they had talked about, and I have moved on to my editorial page. In the ideas page, again, there would be so many things to read about, and I would say that all these three articles are very much relevant to you, very, very important to you. Okay, so it is the editorials, as I always maintain, which are the most important part. In the Indian Express, they carry this page every day. It is the explained. Now, the explained portion is very important for you, especially from understanding certain issues which have been going on for some time. So, like today, they had talked about the China-Taiwan tussle. Very good point, very good article, needs to be read. Maybe if you want, you can read about this survey also, or you can leave it, up to you. But this is one section which I would advise all of you to at least visit once in your day. Okay, most of the time they carry 2 or 3 articles in this, and all 3 of them or 2 of them or whatever become very relevant to you. This section won't disappoint you most of the times. Now, talking about international news, really that is nothing over here which is interesting, if I may say. Then no, not really, nothing interesting over here. In the economy, yes, this is nice. To rationalize logistics cost, infrastructure master plan launched. Something about policy making which would give us an idea. Then domestic airlines are back to full capacity. How it has impacted them or affected them. Brilliant article, needs to be read and thought about. There's something about RIL, Reliance Infrastructure Limited, and some things have been having been talked about this deal also. So if you have been following the business news, only then this is relevant to you. Otherwise, you can peacefully leave it. Okay. India's third in RE, Renewable Energy Investment Attractive Index. Very important article for you in terms of your exams. So, please see, you have to continuously look for news which starts affecting you syllabus wise. Okay. So, my first suggestion would be, try to remember your syllabus in your head and start connecting the points. That way it becomes very easy for you to understand and pick which topic to read and which topic to leave in those categories that I had talked about earlier. Okay, so India at third in RE Investment Attractive Index. Well, if you are interested in cartoons, this is the world for it. Calvin and Hobbes remains my favorite ever and always. Coming to the sports news, the IPS juggernaut, don't need to worry about it. World Cup qualifiers, yes, you may read about it. They have talked about here in this article, it's not so much of World Cup qualifiers than about how the fans have been behaving, the hooliganism of football, of the sports that gets highlighted over here. So that gives a perspective on how the society is moving and how would you like to use these points. So lastly, Dravid coach, nothing so important, and the advertisements keep jumping over here. So this was so much about newspaper reading. Okay. In a nutshell, if I may try to assess what I've been doing for the last 10-15 minutes, is that I have tried to tell you certain points which, when implemented, can help you understand your newspaper faster and better. Okay, I have talked about why newspaper reading is important for you. Okay, and lastly, what I have talked about is that what you should be reading in your newspaper. Okay, so with this, I'll end this session and meet you guys in some time with another session. Please keep watching us, please keep liking us, and do subscribe to our channel. Good day, goodbye.